This is also the fourth monthly Forbidden Knowledge Network panel, and today we're going to talk about energy vampires. I'm joined by Chris Matthew, owner of the Forbidden Knowledge Network and the Forbidden Knowledge News channels, Jennifer Halcame, who's a Reiki and energy healer, and Stephen Stathis, owner of the BG Cast channels. All of the links are below in the description. Thank you for subscribing. Leave me a comment and do smash that like button. Welcome, everybody. Let's start with a go around where you can tell the listeners and viewers more about you. Stephen, you want to start us off tonight?
Sure, why not? I am Steven. I am the host of BG Cast. I am part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. You guys can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network website, my own platforms as well on Rumble, YouTube, and X. And I'm also available on all other major podcast platforms and social media. I cover the Great Awakening / Great Remembering and everything that's involved with it, from the spiritual concepts and the spiritual warfare, the conspiracies, the crazy far out theories of ancient civilizations, and everything along those lines.
Wonderful. Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Halcame. I am a Reiki master teacher and also a life coach, psychic intuitive, psychic healer. I've been practicing for about 30 years now, and you can find me at jenniferhalcame@gmail.com.
Wonderful. And Chris.
Hello, everyone. I am Chris Matthew, host and producer of Forbidden Knowledge News, founder of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, and producer and creator of the Forbidden documentary series. And I am once again here to get weird with all of you. So, looking forward to that.
Wonderful. Yes. So that's the other thing. The Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and the Aliens and Angels podcast. I'm host of both of those shows on the at Karen Holton TV channels. And I am happy to say that I'm a member of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, as is Stephen Stathis and BG Cast. So Chris is kind of our grand poobah, and I appreciate him and all the opportunities that he's given to us very, very much. So today we're going to talk about energy vampires. Wow, we could go anywhere with this. I thought maybe we could start with Stephen, and you could just sort of what comes to mind for you when we say energy vampires?
Ooh, well, I feel when we're discussing both energy and psychic vampires, we have kind of a, as we look at as above, so below, we have, our own personal ones, are ones that can affect our lives as human beings who enter our experience. Whether we deal with narcissists or sociopaths or psychopaths in our everyday life, or in our collective. And also too, we kind of move up, and I would say we have collective energy vampires and psychic vampires as well. Different ideas, narratives, trains of thought that steal your energy and kind of perpetuate you with fear and anxiety and keep you in this state of mesmerized terror. I would definitely say that's an energetic vampire or a psychic vampire. Anything that removes you from your sovereignty as an individual.
Yeah, very good. Jennifer, what's your take on energy vampires?
Um, I've known a couple of people who are energy vampires in my life, and it it's a nasty business. Really, it is. They're wonderful people, and I've known them since high school, and I'm still friends with them. But uh, they ended up, because they drew energy from people and not from the universe. They also got all of those people's problems. And so both of them have ended up to date literally rotting from the inside out. It's kind of a, like I said, it's a nasty business. Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
these people are aware that they're doing this, right? They have this
They know who they are.
ability to siphon energy in a way.
They do. They both know who they are, and they do it on purpose.
Now,
Mhm.
as far as my understanding, I'm sure I've come across energy vampires in my lifetime. I know that there's plenty of people that I felt drained with after dealing with, but I think if we're talking about energy here, I would more look at a larger picture. I know Stephen mentioned this earlier, and we'll get deeper into this as we go, and that's the energy that we put out always comes back to us. And there is a parasitic ruling class that its primary goal right now is to keep us in a perpetual state of fight or flight, fear, reliance on daddy government, because there's always an invisible boogeyman and always an invisible enemy to be afraid of, always something to be fearful about. And on top of that, all of the systems, all of our systems, education system, medical system, political systems, are fundamentally parasitic. So again, it's a siphoning of energy based on the fundamentals that of these systems that we deal with, and they're put forward by this parasitic ruling class. Now, the question is, on what level are they aware that they're siphoning our energy, and to how much intention is behind that directive, and is there another force at play here? And I think that we need to start taking accountability as individuals and in our own lives for allowing a lot of this to happen, and for putting out our own negativity out there, because anything we put out there is going to come back at us in some way and affect us in some way. And we've allowed the parasitic ruling class to thrive for decades. And we just recently, some of us became aware of this, and there's a growing number of us that are aware of it. And those that are like us on this show are starting a trend of not allowing our energy to be siphoned away from this. Now, and we can get into bigger questions of, is there a larger force at play that also feeds on energy on different levels? Is there an intelligence or some sort of being or entity beyond our perception that's feeding on this? And I struggle with this. I go back and forth. Is that the case, or is it something that we created with our own energy, like an egregore? Is it something that we perpetuate ourselves, that we at one point had this belief and a way of doing things in a negative way, and we kept doing it because the energy kept perpetually coming back, and we didn't learn from it for however long, for centuries, and we're still dealing with that energy that has only grown over the centuries because we have been putting that out there. So that's what I'll say about it, and I think that'll open up a few extra doors.
Really good.
Definitely.
You
Definitely.
know, when this topic was suggested, I right away kind of didn't want to talk about it because my mind went to the many examples in my own life where I have inadvertently, I don't know, allowed, encouraged, or just didn't get the signals or see the red flags for whatever reason, and have had so much of that in my own life. And I didn't want to go down a downward spiral and make this into a therapy session. But then I thought about it, and I thought, you know, the same principles that affected me in those realms also affect me as far as national and global politics And for lack of a better word, the cabal, the parasite class, as Chris and Stephen mentioned. But also there's like an invisible realm that I also feel exists, that's also feeding off of our bad feelings. And I have had experiences with that and had much success overcoming it. So I think that's what I will add to the mix today. So, Stephen, do you want to expand a bit more on how you were seeing energy vampires, or what the phenomena looks like, what causes it, how it
So
affects us?
one thing that you just brought up I found really interesting, Karen, is, we're talking about in the spiritual realms. We have these entities that do like to intake, eat, or ingest a specific energy, that we emit as human beings. That's definitely something I feel we're dealing with. So the modern term for it is loosh. But actually there is a very ancient term for it that the Buddhists and the Taoists use to describe it. It's called dukkha. So what dukkha is, it's an energy that we emit when we're in an intense negative emotional state, or we have an untrained mind. Now, if we look at the majority of the collective, especially in my country and yours at this point in time as well, we see that everybody's in a very negative emotional state. And on top of that, we couple that with, everybody, a lot of individuals in this collective don't have a trained mind. So yes, this definitely gives up that opportunity, though. But again, even touching on what Chris was saying about this too, because this is a very valid point. It's kind of our fault too. It's almost like a reciprocative relationship that we've instilled with these energetic parasites at this point. Because we do not. Or not as of yet, the human collective is not raising its awareness to become sovereign spiritual beings. It has opened up itself to this kind of negative feedback. And I guess that's the best way I can put it. And I mean, even kind of, what Chris was saying earlier too on egregores, there's certain egregores, when we look at what an egregore is, it's a almost a thought form entity that starts to manifest when enough people put their energy into a thought, a narrative, or things like that. I mean, even our side of the argument has its own egregore, if we really want to look at it that way. So, and these two can also take an awareness and a consciousness and, steal energy from the collective. So I think really what we're dealing with at this point in time, at least in my eyes, is, where it's almost like, yes, there was some kind of sleight of hand involved in this when it comes to everything that's going on, but we kind of allowed that sleight of hand to occur as well.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts, Jennifer?
No.
Well, I want to go back to what you were saying, Stephen, about the overall atmosphere right now amongst the populace, amongst the entire planet, really. They have pockets of people who are very compassionate, who are looking at things very objectively and aren't taking things to extreme levels, and can have conversations with people and not become belligerent or, lose friends because of your opinions or theories. There's very few of those people. For a while, right after 2020 and 2021, I was pretty encouraged, about how people were coming together and sharing ideas and becoming aware of the corruption in the system. And then last year hits and I don't know what's happened. It's like complete chaos. People are completely divided. I'm sure the election season, the selection season has a lot to do with that. I think that once we enter this period, people become more divisive naturally, but this is something special happening this time. There's a level of theater that I've never witnessed before. And there are all kinds of implications creeping in that aren't normally in your political climate, like theology and a lot of the spiritual and prophetic things that seem to be unfolding during this time period that they're playing off of. Now, I'm not saying that there are actually prophecies unfolding. I'm saying that the parasitic ruling class seems to be going off of this prophetic playbook to make it seem as though these things are unfolding so that we remain in a state of fear. So there is that aspect, but the biggest thing I'm noticed right now is the division amongst people, especially in the quote unquote truther or conspiracy community. There's so much infighting, so much confusion, and the information coming out is doo-doo everywhere. It's like the doo-doo being slung against the wall. It's crazy how much misinformation and disinformation is coming out from every story that you look at. I have to sit back, and nowadays you have to wait at least a couple of weeks for things to unfold to even start to get a picture of it. But still, there's so much information that comes out by the time you get a tiny view of what's happening that the waters have been muddied so much that you can't even tell what the hell's going on anymore. And this is, of course, it seems like it's all by design. It most likely is. And it's helping feed this division right now. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we're facing. And it's only going to get crazier the closer we get to the election. And then who knows what could happen after. It's wide open to how insane things could get. Hello, friends. At some point in our journeys, we all need guidance and direction. One thing I've learned along the way is that there are many ways to connect with our soul mission. Jennifer Halcame offers over 30 years experience with intuitive tarot, life coaching, and energy and attachment clearing. She helps others with energetic blocks become aligned with their soul mission. She offers one-on-one or online Zoom sessions, and cases are assessed on an individual basis, and she works with everyone truly in need. You can email her now to set up a free consultation at jenniferhalcame@gmail.com or through Facebook Messenger. All those links are right in the description.
I totally agree. Now, my take on the energy vampires is that there is a global cabal and a small number of people that are behind the scenes that are pulling the strings. Most of the characters that we see are puppets. They are not the puppet master. We don't even necessarily know who the puppet master is. But I sort of subscribe to the simulation theory, which doesn't mean that it's all fake. It's all very real and has real life consequences. But I do believe that the observation, the eye of the observer, and how we observe things creates how it is. And so the part that I keep personally reminding myself is to, yes, it seems like it's very real. All these things seem to be happening, horrible things, wars and bunch of perverts and God knows what else. Like, it's just not good. Our food industry's been corrupted, medical industries, it just looks like it's all rotten to the core. But I have to remember that as a creative being, do I want to add energy to that by becoming fearful? So yes, I'm aware. No, I don't like it. But what can I do about it? Well, I can start in my own small sphere, and I can make sure that I eat the best I know how and get good sleep and be on good terms with others. I mean, their behavior is their business. That's them. They can do them and I'll do me. And so it's getting back to me doing me. What do I need to do to be functional, to add harmony and peace and health to this world? And I think that's the most important thing that I can do. But I also believe that that withdraws my consent and energy from supporting the structure. So it isn't that I don't care. It's that I can't necessarily afford to care too much because I'm a caring person. I need to look after my own backyard. And then I want to speak just a little bit to the idea of invisible forces that feed off of our luge. I also have had experiences with that. And I think it's all tied in. I think everything is related, everything is connected. But I have had many, many cases and times and seasons, and worse than that, where I've had terrible depression, anxiety, self-loathing, shame, guilt, remorse. Oh my God. I mean, the pit seems to be bottomless. And when I understood that there were beings that would feed off of my energy when I was in that state, I started challenging those states. So one thing I did that really helped a lot was I changed my lifestyle, and nobody wants to hear that. They just want to take a magic pill or do the right mantra or do a meditation and have everything be perfect, but not kind of, for me, just in my situation, has required quite a lot of effort, which I don't regret at all. My life is so much better as a result. But I started challenging and even saying out loud, I know what you're doing. You're feeding off of me. Guess what? You have to go feed someplace else because you cannot feed off of me anymore. And even though all the indicators are here to make me feel bad, I'm not going to feel bad. I'm going to put on some music. I'm going to count my blessings. I'm going to think about things that make me happy. And you're just going to have to go fuck yourself, pardon my language. And I found the more I practiced that, the better it got. And even better than that, it's almost like when we catch it happening, we get a gift. Somehow we get a blessing or something that actually is a reward for challenging that energy and that force. So I'm by no means perfect. I find that from time to time I get retested, but it's kind of like, okay, I just want to tell you one other quick thing. Okay, I found out that when I go into the woods, all the bugs want to feed off of me. They all want to come and pester me, and mosquitoes want to feed off me. And one day while I was out in the woods, I just said, enough. Look, you guys, there's lots of other things you can feed off of. Leave me alone. Could I please have some peace so that I can enjoy my time in the woods today? And lo and behold, the bugs all left me alone. So I think on many different levels, it's about internal and external boundaries, whether it's bugs, whether it's invisible forces that want to suck my energy, whether it's politicians, whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean to ramble on and on, but just wanted to say that that's been my real life experience, and I need to keep working on it. But I find that my life is so much better. I sleep so much better. I digest better. Everything is better.
That sounds pretty awesome, Karen. That's the way, though. I mean, I think you kind of paved it out. It's a complete and total lifestyle change. From the way you think, from the way you go about your life, from the content that you intake, what you decide to fill your mind stream, your heart, like your awareness with. And that's what starts making the change, and that starts what starts making you sovereign as a human being. And something I wanted to touch on that Chris said real quick, also something that you said, Karen, about this global cabal. Chris was talking about how, like, into 2023, 2024, like, things have just become kind of stupid. There's a lot of infighting in our community. What I feel is going on with this is one of the energetic parasites, or the energetic parasite, as we know, as the global cabal, doing its diversion efforts in order to divert us and to kind of keep us spinning our wheels and not making any kind of real progress. And, that's something that I feel I try to bring awareness to as much as possible, because the more we fight amongst ourselves and, we continue to perpetuate this kind of negative energy in our community, the more they win. And the more that they get what they want. And it's that double-edged sword. And it's like you try to tell people that, and they like, it's like, look, I understand that the person next to you likes a different color shirt than you. But at the same time here, okay, like you guys are kind of brothers in arms in this. You both want this, spiritual way of life. You guys want this new way of being. Like, this is what we have to focus on. Nonetheless, I just wanted to touch on that because that's something I feel like I've beaten the horse dead on, but nobody, I mean, Chris, you guys get it. Don't get me wrong, but there's still a lot of people who need to understand this. But, as far as what we can do, I think, Karen, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's that lifestyle change. What kind of content are you intaking? What are you listening to? What are you filling not only the space of your home with, the space of your heart with, and the space of your head with? And that's number one. I mean, if you're still watching a lot of this, these fear-based channels, or these channels giving you half truths, or trying to steer you into more division amongst your community, I think you're doing yourself and the rest of the community the disservice at this point, because this is not generating or, putting anything great forth. So the number one thing is you have to kind of do a revamp of your whole being. You need to look at, what you're taking in, what you're focusing on. And I think Karen really kind of hit it home again when she says, she's focusing on her own backyard. But here's the thing: when we focus on changing ourselves for the better, we're also helping the collective. It's not a selfish thing. And I think that's where a lot of people get it misconstrued. Like, oh, you're doing all this self-work, but what are you doing to help the collective? I'm like, dude, the self-work is helping the collective. So like, this is what I can do, at least with the means that I have. So, and I mean, and also too, being a sovereign person, I've kind of, another thing I've always hit the nail on the head with is sovereignty, not letting anything rule you. And I mean, what I've experienced from, the most energetic parasites I've experienced is from what I would call the lower level narratives of our community, very the surface level things, because we're looking at now conspiracies, and like this type of content and media has broken into the mainstream. And we all back in the day, was like, oh, this is going to be a great thing when it happens, like, yeah, we got fooled is what happened, because now that it's in the mainstream, they have control of it now, and they can kind of keep everybody at a, surface level. So, sometimes I'll occasionally, not so much anymore, I'll see some of those, what I would call surface level egregores, come out and like kind of look at me in the face, be like, hey, you remember about this stuff? And like, and I'll be like, okay, and no, I'm good, man. We hung out a lot back in the day. I think it's time that we don't hang out anymore. I think we're cutting this relationship off. And that's kind of where I've gotten to, because again, as Chris was saying, the thing that's going to the two things are compassion and understanding, are what's going to get us through everything at this point in time. And I definitely foresee a lot of this energetic vampirism ramping up the closer we get to, I'm calling it crunch time right now, because that's the best thing I can call it. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Like, nobody knows the outcome of what's going to go on, but it's obviously affecting our collective so much on this energetic level that even I'm feeling it. Other people are feeling it. People are having trouble sleeping. And I think this kind of ties into that as well, so I think the biggest thing that we have to wrap our heads around at this point in time, that a lot of people have not, is there is a very heavy spiritual component to what's going on. This is not just geopolitical, okay? This is not just these elites. This is not just, like, yes, that's all a part of it. Don't get me wrong, but really, we're that's the icing of the cake. You know, if you want to get to the center of the cake, it's this heavy spiritual element going on right now, as Chris even called it, this weird alchemical transmutation we're all going through at this period. That's the best thing I can call it. I mean, it's truly is what it is. I mean, what we have to do, guys, is just have the awareness that this is happening to us. And like I was saying, I'll digress. You know, clean up your mind, clean up your heart, clean up your home. And I mean, like, your home is both external and internal. You have your internal home and your external home. So, you know, clean it up, fill it with good things that help contribute to the betterment of what's going on right now. And I'm sure you'll find that once you do that, a lot of your problems with this energetic vampirism is going to go away. So that's it for me. Yeah.
Right on. Now,
Wonderful.
I would definitely want to circle back to the big picture of this energetic vampirism. But Jen, I want to go back to a second to your experiences with the folks that are aware that they're doing this. A couple of questions about that. First off, how are they siphoning the energy? What benefits do they immediately get from that?
Well, the folks I know, the way that they do it is pretty similar to the way any other being would do it. They come in, they cause chaos in your life. They cause you to feel anxious when you're around them. They will, if you're not responding in the way they would like, they will get more agitated and more aggressive in their words, their body language, their energy, and they will just mess with you until you have this big negative outpouring of energy, and they just eat it up. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen, honestly. Yeah, if you're an energy worker with them, the reason we have been able to be friends over the years is because I know how to cut them off. So they can't siphon from me. And then I made a deal with them about 10 years ago that um, they could ask permission to siphon. And when they do, I just cut on Reiki, which ends up feeding both of us in a very positive way. And, ended up, I tried to talk to them over the years. I would do treatments on them and, balancing on them and all of these things. And before they'd even get off my table, they'd be misaligned again. And I'm like, okay, look, so you want to siphon energy, but if you do that on people, what you get is not only their problems, but you also get a finite source. So, yeah, I tried to train them over the years to siphon from the universe, which, as we know, is a beautiful, never ending source of energy that we can all tap into. One of them decided to do that, and she's gotten really good at it. She became a nurse and, has changed over the years. The other person, not so much, and he ends up in the hospital about every 6 months from, just with him, it's lymph nodes, which are all over your body. They're absorbing all that negative stuff, and now they won't drain. So he ends up with all of these massive health issues. But I, to speak to Karen's thing, I'm with you. I've come across I call them shadow people. Other people have different names for them, that will just siphon off of you and, cause this anxiety and depression and all of these issues. And I figured it out. I guess I was about 25 the first time I figured it out. And I got so frustrated that I just yelled out spontaneously, "Stop sucking my energy." And there was
Mhm.
like this immediate release. And I went, okay, that's a thing that's doing that. That's not me doing that to myself. That is like an outside thing sucking off of me. And I ended up having to teach it to my kid who's has some negative stuff around him, doing the same thing, causing anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, and it's not the person, it's this crazy ass entity that goes, "Oh, well, you look like food."
Mhm.
But yeah, to speak to Karen and Stephen, it is absolutely essential that you look inside and you get your own house straight and you treat yourself and love yourself the best that you can. And that's probably the best remedy for all of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the illness, it just comes along with negative energy in general. And if you're dealing in negative energy in your daily life to feed off of, that's going to have a negative effect on your body and build up, I imagine, over time. That can't be good. Yeah. I want to go back to we mentioned a few times parasites, parasitic ruling class, and Brandon Thomas and I had a couple of conversations about parasites before, the micro and macro aspects of what they are. And this is very as above, so below. Parasites, I believe that when you look at them under a microscope, what do they look? They look like little aliens. They look like little demons. And we were going back and forth and speculating if there's any spiritual connection to these physical microscopic parasites that we get in our body that can invade us at different times that cause us to be sick. But also, there are parasites that can cause mental illness. There are parasites that can cause different suicidal thoughts and depression, and all from this little demonic insect looking creature that is residing inside your body. And there must be aspects of this that go beyond our perception, the micro aspect in the cosmos, parasitic entities that feed off of us on a larger or a higher level. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, yeah, very, very good. Now, what's interesting about that is I just want to tell you a little bit about my history is I was a carbohydrate junkie. So I was addicted to sugar and sweet things and sugar and pies and bread. Oh my God, bread and grains and all of those kind of things. And then I learned that that feeds certain you could call it parasites, but they basically components of your gut biome. And we now know that gut biome is very much involved in creating our serotonin and our feel good um, chemicals that we need, dopamine, all that kind of stuff is made in the gut. The heart has brain tissue, and the gut also has brain tissue. So it's kind of like we have three brains. And so I had to go through years of withdrawal, and I'm not kidding, years, because I would backslide, but I don't backslide anymore. But what's happened is it takes a certain amount of time, sometimes a year, for these components or creatures that make up our gut biome for that to die off. And then they don't affect us anymore. But the really freaky part goes with what you were saying, Chris. They will control our cravings. They will make us dream. Like I've gone through periods of time where I'm dreaming about eating these rich desserts. And I go, what? I have not had any sugar for 2 years. Like, why am I dreaming about these rich desserts? Well, these creatures, again, very demon-like components of my gut biome that are in the last stages of dying off, and they want to survive. And so they're giving me these dreams and these thoughts of eating rich desserts. And of course, when I really knuckle down, well, I keep myself really well fed. So that helps a lot. Because if you're already full, where are you going to put dessert, even if it came your way? And I'm also careful not to keep anything in the house that isn't good for me. And there's no way I'm going to get up and go all the way to the store to get something just because I have a craving, because I'm just a bit too lazy for that. So anyway, these things are dying off. So now I've been a year and a half without basically zero carbs. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's working for me. Oh, I just want to show you a couple of pictures of me uh, on my journey. There's one.
Oh, wow.
And
You've come a long way,
and
Karen. Nice work.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and here's another one. Okay, so I'm not kidding when I told you I was addicted. Here's a picture of me and my lovely brother.
Hmm.
And
Like a totally
here's
different
one.
person.
I
Yeah,
know. It's like you
here's
lost
one.
two of you.
Yeah, so here's another one of me. So I've been really obviously very diligent and created a whole new reality for myself. But I just wanted to sort of confirm what Chris was saying about them being almost like demon entities. They
Hmm.
can control our behaviors, control our cravings, control our thoughts. Holy shit. Those little suckers had to go. And I'm now at the point where I've passed through. I'm hoping they're all gone and I'm not going to do anything to bring them back. But yeah, so working on my gut biome. Anyway, sorry, I always ramble. I don't mean to, but
You're good.
No, that was great. And Chris, I completely agree with you too. I mean, you were talking about the as above, so below concept with them. I mean, when we see them in in a micro or under a microscope, we see these little demonic looking creatures. I mean, you look at a tapeworm, it's got hooks all over it. It looks, but you brought up a really good point because this is why I say symbolism is one of the prime languages of the universe, if not the prime language, because that even ties into as above, so below. Whatever we have in a physical format can also have its energetic counterpart. So if we do have this physical parasite that's inhabiting us, it most certainly has some kind of energetic counterpart that can intertwine with our energy. And as Karen was saying, control our cravings, what we do. I mean, we even look at some of these parasites that cause people to be violent. I mean, there's some of those that exist out there as well. So, I mean, the gut biome, yes, absolutely. I mean, I take a mood probiotic every day, and it actually has a specific strain of bifidus in it that actually helps contribute to good mood because as Karen was saying, that's where a lot of our serotonin is generated, is in our digestive system. So that is almost like the heart, the brain, the stomach is its own kind of triage or trinity. It's funny how it all kind of comes in threes sometimes too. There's the symbolism kicking back in, but that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, really, the foods that you were talking about, Karen, that's a huge topic. A lot of these foods can attract parasites, and that's one of the biggest things. America is malnourished right now, due to the lack of nutrients in our food. It's even surprised me. So yeah, that's definitely, a method of cleaning house, I would say, is, cleaning up your diet and cleaning up your health because one of the biggest things too, as somebody who also shares a health journey here, is when you start to elevate the health of your body, the frequency of your consciousness is going to elevate by default. And this is just a really underrated benefit of getting yourself healthy too. And these energetic parasites also work through the food because you see how a lot of these high sugary foods, they act like drugs in our brain. They control this dopamine response. Every time somebody eats something sweet, our brain is just flooded with dopamine because it's a pleasurable feeling. It's a pleasurable effect. And then you have people becoming slaves to that. And, I was actually watching a podcast the other day. It was a health podcast, but the guy was talking about, how there's some people who just, excuse me, really love to eat. Like you could ask somebody a question like, do you like to eat? And a lot of people be like, yeah, I like to eat. But then you have those specific people you go, do you like to eat? And they're like, oh man, dude, let me tell you about it. And that's exactly that's exactly what I'm talking about. So very good points, you guys. I love it. And that is a huge aspect of cleaning yourself up.
Oh yeah, to speak to what Stephen was saying, it is something that I've noticed for the last 20 years or so that it seems to be totally ignored by the spiritual community, or how our health affects our spiritual connection to source. And it breaks my heart, honestly, to see a lot of it. Um, it it is so important in loving ourselves, and getting to know ourselves. And that's how we maintain our sovereignty and our control over our own, is paying attention and just being as healthy as you can be. There's no way to ideally be perfect about it in this world with as many poisons as we're faced with on a daily basis, but you can absolutely do the best that you can do. You can find out more. You can always try to be healthier and pay attention to what your body is telling you, and again, how that responds to energy vampires and different things that come along that want to feed off of you, will no longer see you as food if you're shining from the inside out with that light.
Now, I want to go back to Stephen. You mentioned the alchemical transformation possibilities for humanity that we're experiencing right now. And you and I and the group that was at the gathering were kind of talking about this. If what is happening is being guided by some greater force to evolve us in a way, and those involved, the parasitic ruling class who are putting forward these things to shake things up, they don't even know what's happening. They're doing it for their own selfish reasons. They're doing it to get more power and for their own greedy and sick purposes. But possibly, are they being used by a greater force to cause this shakeup and alchemical transformation of humanity? Because if any of this, if none of this stuff happened in 2020, and we would still be going about our lives clueless. It shook things up. It got people to become aware of things, and if it didn't happen, would we be in the same place we're at right now as far as the spiritual awakening that a lot of folks are having, including myself? I mean, I started to wake up to things in about 2012, but after 2020, it really sped things up in my journey and a lot of people's, I believe. So there are a lot of good things that has happened. And this also goes back to a topic we talked about before, timelines and our perception of things. And if we perceive things to be wonderful, and if things in our lives are going positively and we're putting out positive energy and it's perpetually coming back to us, and we're not interacting with the dark side or the negative things that are occurring, in a sense, are we on a more positive timeline than other people? Or is our reality fundamentally different from theirs? So there is a lot that's happening right now that is changing people in a very interesting way, and I'm wondering if there is a greater force at play.
I would definitely say, yeah, you should. Yes, I would definitely say yes, Chris. One thing, I'm a huge proponent of that. Not a lot of people are a fan of. Well, you guys understand here. So, I mean, no matter if it sways in the balance of the light or it sways in the balance of the dark, it all ultimately serves the divine creation. And that's still, something a lot of people are having a hard time catching up to, because, a lot of people in our community are still stuck in this very dualistic mindset. They have to compartmentalize all of this stuff into either it's absolutely good or it's absolutely bad. And one of the things I bring up, the analogies that I bring up a lot, is how many bad situations have you been in that have had a silver lining? And how many good situations have you been in that have had a massive caveat? So this analogy kind of takes hold when we're looking at this. Do I think we would be as accelerated as we are today if 2020 did not happen? Absolutely not. It was a necessary event in my eyes. Now that I look back, I do feel we are on a very positively projected timeline. And there's something about humans that I've just also come to learn too, even in the collective sense, is we have to get put through the ringer to learn. A lot of us are very stuck in our ways. A lot of us are very stuck in, comfort, or, humans are naturally creatures of comfort. And really, the only way you're going to get a lot of people to wake up is to stifle that comfort, to shake up that comfort and that normality that people feel. So I think right now, yes, there is a greater source that is most certainly, it's playing both sides, which I find kind of interesting. It's definitely I guess the best way I can describe it is it's having this reciprocation with both of the polarities, at least from what I can see. Is, we take a look at COVID, like that's why I always call it a blessing and a curse. Because like, yes, like the curse part of it was that it definitely took us out of the constitutional United States of America, at least where we live. It took Canada out of its constitution as well. And it kind of really, put a damper on certain things as far as our free speech and us relaying our message. But at the same time, what it has done was this massive catalyzation that occurred that almost accelerated what I would call this divine spark energy that is really, really starting to emanate and manifest itself in the collective. And I do feel there are higher interests at play. And another thing that you touched on, Chris, too, is the parasite class. Are they even, yes, they're doing this for their own selfish reasons, but, I feel a lot of them have allowed themselves to become avatars for these negative entities through their beliefs, their rituals, that they practice, whether it's adrenochrome, whether it's the blood of children. Yes, man, I had to say it. It is what it is. And, or any of that. So it's almost as if like, yes, I do think in some ways some have allowed themselves to become avatars for these entities. I feel some people were looped into it, again, the sleight of hand, but then again, at the same time, there's that reciprocative intention that takes into place. You have the intention of going forth down this road, and with that intention and that action of you going down this road, you're going to attract everything that comes down the road with it. So that's something, yes, I do think that they are, some of them, at least the ones that are very high up, are completely and totally aware of what's going on. Karen.
Yeah, so we're quickly running out of time, but we have a few minutes left. I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts with everybody. And one thing is our lives are much richer when we have contrast. And so when the shit's hitting the fan around us, that's the perfect time to be more self-nurturing. Like even where I live, it's very cold. In Canada, it's very cold and 6 months out of the year, especially 4 months out of the year, it's like could be 40, 50 below zero. That's Celsius, which is probably similar when it's that cold Fahrenheit. But if I'm in the house too many days in a row, even though I'm comfortable, I need to get out for a walk in that cold, chilly weather just to get the contrast, just to stimulate myself in another direction. I think people that do cold plunges, that's partly what they're doing. But so I think that when the shit hits the fan politically or, medically or whatever is a perfect time for us to introduce some contrast into our lives, helps balance things out. Another thing I wanted to say, getting back to what Jennifer was saying about people that are energy vampires, I was so surrounded by them. It was the environment I grew up in that I didn't even know that it was a false matrix or false environment. And, it taught me to be very small, to make myself small and insignificant. And, because as soon as I did anything well, then I was, targeted. And sort of in some ways, that's true even on a political level with us and being podcasters. But what's happened is since I've taken responsibility for myself and not worrying so much about other people's feelings and process, because that's up to them to take care of. I'm not here to take care of the world. I'm here to take care of me. And what's happened is I've become a much larger person and I'm doing things I never dreamed that I would be doing. I'm planning on things and manifesting things I never thought I would be able to do. So within this stinky world that we're talking about, I'm having the most amazing adventure and I'm not getting any younger. So, it's time for me to get on the bandwagon and see, just keep expanding and see how big I can get. And of course, I'm not meaning in a physical body way. I'm just talking about an energetic way. So my whole life is unfolding. It's fantastic. And the reason I'm telling everybody, the viewers and the listeners, this is not to brag, but to show you what's possible, to say this is another way that we can react and respond. And if it works for me, I'm sure it would work for other people. So I thought maybe we could just do a final go round and you guys could offer positive suggestions to the listeners and the viewers. And also tell us again where people can find you and what you're up to. Stephen, you want to take it away?
So one thing I wanted to bring up, kind of going with, you guys might find this funny, what Jen was saying about, energetic vampires and psychic vampires you meet in person. So there's this show, it's actually kind of funny. It's called What We Do in the Shadows. And yeah, it's these three regular vampires, but then they got the one energetic vampire, and the three regular vampires are afraid of him. Yeah. I know. They're afraid of him. Every time he gets in the room, they all get like this, and he's like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And they look at each other. He's like, he's getting stronger by the day. God damn it, because he's absorbing everybody's energy around him.
What platform? Where can people find that show? It sounds
on Hulu.
Really.
Oh. Yeah, you guys would really enjoy it. But like he's the guy who goes online and argues with people through the comments just to drain their energy, stuff like that. So definitely something to check out. But words of advice I would leave, or positive thoughts I would leave with everybody. For the energetic vampires and the psychic vampires on your subjective stage, in your own life that you deal with, boundaries, just as Jen was saying. You have to know when to cut them off. No, especially if they're loved ones. My family's the same way on my dad's side. They're all energetic and psychic vampires, and hence why I decided to move 1,800 miles away and get as far away from that as I possibly can. I still love them nonetheless, even though we don't really chat, but that's the best thing, is boundaries, discernment, and sticking to your sovereignty. Okay, like sovereignty is the number one thing that's going to help us through this, as well as compassion and understanding, at least in my eyes. As far as what we're dealing with, the collective vampirism, from the global cabal, the negative entities that work with the global cabal, that are putting forth all of this fear, this negativity, this sadness, this death, all of that. Again, guys, it's not that it's not real. It's not that it's not happening. What you fill your mind and your heart and your internal home with is going to dictate the reality and the timeline that you experience. So definitely clean house, your external house, whether you got I'm not going to say names, but posters of these fear people everywhere, or their books and things like that. Maybe it's time to get rid of them, and to start looking at a different perspective, something that benefits the collective on a deeper level. And also too, just being, again, I can't say sovereignty enough. That's truly it. Not letting any of this rule you. All right. Because the minute you not only let your emotions begin to rule you, and you begin to develop emotional attachments to a lot of the stuff that we're shown on TV, which could or could not be real. Okay. Then you start opening yourself up to this. So the best thing, guys, sovereignty, compassion, understanding, and cleaning house. That's the best thing I could say. And of course, guys, you can find me on Forbidden Knowledge Network, forbiddenknowledge.news. Do me a favor, check out Chris's documentary, check out Ryder's documentary, give them a watch. They're really awesome. And you guys can find me on Rumble and YouTube, every major podcast platform. And of course, you can find me on every major social media, but I'm the most active on X right now. And again, thanks guys for this. This was an awesome conversation. I had a great time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Stephen. So yeah, my last words are everything Stephen said. And protect your peace at all costs. I have found that is personally best thing you can do for yourself. I'm Jennifer Halcame, and you can find me either on Facebook at Jennifer Halcame or at jenniferhalcame@gmail.com.
And I will leave you with just be aware of how you feel around people, how you feel around certain situations. Just be aware of how you feel in general. And if you're surrounding yourself with people that when you're with them, you don't feel so good, or you're arguing, or there's a lot of negative things occurring, you need to reconsider being around those people anymore. So, yeah, it really goes along the lines with what Steven said as well. And yes, this was a great conversation, wonderful information here. And you can find Forbidden Knowledge News at all podcast platforms. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. We're on Rumble, Rokfin. We are back on YouTube as well. We're going to see how long we can survive there. And Facebook, Instagram, and yeah, thank you all again. This was great.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much. And yes, I would ditto what y'all have said. And keep your peace, guard it. It's important. And do check us out on the Forbidden Knowledge Network, forbiddenknowledge.news. And I hope everybody has a really good week. And thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye-bye, everybody.